Hi there, welcome to the latest episode of my 10-minute moan. And the topic of this 10-minute moan is the fact that Gerry Adams may be able to soon receive a payout from the UK government for being in jail during the Troubles in Northern Ireland. Now, this story seems to be causing a bit of, and quite rightly, a bit of noise in social media. And no wonder. And basically what's happened here, Gerry Adams was arrested and jailed in the Maze prison in Northern Ireland during the Troubles, suspected of acts of terror. While he was there, he planned to escape and get caught trying to escape. And that's basically why he was in jail, okay? And there's been a change in law, there's an attempted change in law, which would allow him to receive a payout because of the time he was held with suspected terror acts. So what I'm going to do is the Telegraph have got quite a good coverage of this. So I'm going to use I'm not going to read the whole story out. I'm going to use part of it to explain what's happened and then give you some of my own opinions after that. So Telegraph's headline is Starmer to pay damages to Gerry Adams. Outcry from peers and IRA bomb victims as the PM's decision to repeal Troubles legislation means former Sinn Fein leader is in line for a payout. Gerry Adams is in line for a taxpayer-funded compensation because of Keir Starmer's human rights plans, senior peers have warned. The former Sinn Fein president is set to benefit from a decision by the government to repeal Troubles legislation. The current law blocks his claim for compensation over his detention in prison in the 70s for suspected involvement in terrorism. But Keir Starmer plans to reverse two sections of the 2023 Northern Ireland Troubles Act. Let me just repeat that, the 2023 Northern Ireland Troubles Act, which was just sorted obviously a year ago, right? And which denied Mr Adams up to 400 IRA suspects also detained in the 70s the right to claim compensation. The move has been agreed because a Northern Irish High Court ruled that legislation was incapable with human rights laws. There we go again. Second video today, second one where human rights laws have come in and held people who have been to prison. Hilary Benn, the Northern Ireland Secretary, said that the decision to repeal the law underlined the government's absolute commitment to Human Rights Act. Excuse me. The move has been branded unacceptable by IRA bombing victims. In a report published on Tuesday by the think tank Policy Exchange, 16 leading peers, including Lord West, the former Labour Security Minister, and Lord MacDonald, a former Director of Public Prosecutions, urged Labour to reconsider its decision. The peers, who also included Lord Butler, former Cabinet Secretary, and Lord Bew, the former Chairman of the Committee of Standards in Public Life, warned that it would not aid the cause of reconciliation in Northern Ireland to leave open the possibility of meritless litigation. Lord Hope, a former Deputy President of the Supreme Court and one of the UK's most experienced judges, said the government was acting in a wholly inappropriate way and cautioned Parliament against surrendering its sovereign authority. Suzanne Dodd, whose police officer father Stephen was killed in the IRA Harrods store bombing in 1983, said, considering the IRA victims have not received any compensation, how could Gerry Adams get compensation? My father was killed 41 years ago, and it's highly unacceptable to hear. Very good point. Mr Adams, who's constantly denied being a member of the IRA, was detained in the Maze prison along with hundreds of others suspected of involvement in terrorism amid spiralling violence in the early 70s. In 2020, the Supreme Court quashed Mr Adams' 1975 conviction for attempted escape on the grounds that he was not lawfully detained because his custody order had been signed by a minister other than the Secretary of State. This opened the door for Mr Adams and others to claim compensation. At the time, to be fair, there was an argument from the government that because it was under special conditions, any minister could sign the order, didn't have to be the Secretary of State. But that's neither here nor there. They're not wanting to listen to that. So there's not. I don't want to read out the whole thing, but Section 46 and 47 of the Northern Ireland Troubles Act reversed the Supreme Court decision preventing any compensation being paid out to Mr Adams and between 300 and 400 others. This move was backed by Labour when they were in opposition. Now, bear in mind, this act was 2023, so it's probably 2023. Could have been into 2024 before it was passed as law. So it's not that long ago. So what's changed? Why all of a sudden does Labour, now as soon as they're in power, practically as soon as they're in power, want to overturn this? When they agreed with the legislation 12 to 18 months ago, I would suggest. The 16 peers said Parliament was unusually united in reasoning that the Supreme Court's judgment was a mistake and it needed to be reversed in order to restore the long-established understanding of the Cartona principle. That's the principle that suggests that in times like that you can have other ministers other than the Secretary of State sign off orders. However, Patrick Fitzsimmons, another Mays attempted escapee, successfully challenged the legislation in Northern Ireland High Court, arguing it was a breach of his human rights. So what do I think about this? Well, there's a few things, and there's two glaring things. I think it's wrong, right? I think it's bonkers. But if Gerry Adams is adamant in his claim that he was never a member of the IRA, then he must hold the world record for the non-IRA member that attended the most IRA funerals. Because I can't remember seeing many or much footage of him either carrying coffins or attending funerals, along with Martin McGuinness, of almost every IRA funeral I think I've ever seen on TV or photographs in newspapers. So if he was not an IRA member, why was it all these funerals? Now, I can imagine at that time in Northern Ireland, most people would know somebody that was in a paramilitary group, whether that was Loyalist or Republican, right? So I'm kind of accepting that if an old neighbour or possibly even close friends or family might have been members of the IRA and might have died, because they don't all die, right, like before now. And through the time, the amount of funerals that he went to, right? I think it's probably impossible to find anybody in the Republican community that didn't know somebody that was an IRA. I think that's a fair comment, right? So if he was at one or two, you could probably go, aye, okay, one was maybe a friend or family or neighbour or whatever. But the amount him and McGuinness were at through the 70s, 80s, 90s and the noughties, incredible. And even up to this day. So I'm not falling for it, right? So there's that. But the other thing is, you've got to remember that all the way through the Troubles, the IRA prisoners, they wanted to be treated like prisoners of war. The British government didn't want to treat them as prisoners of war. So what we've done was they ended up with this sort of go-betweeny thing, which they were sort of de facto prisoners of war. They were given special category status, that was the word I was looking for. And it allowed them things that normal prisoners didn't get. And things like prisoners of war would actually get, like they would have the ability not to wear prison uniforms. They could wear their own army uniforms, inverted commas, if they so wished, or whatever they wanted. There was things like that. They didn't need to do prison work. And also, if you see yourself as a prisoner of war, you have this need, which is almost an order, that you should try and escape, right? So this is a sort of shite that they pull when they were trying to escape, because the Mays prison, I think there was 38, high 30s anyway, IRA prisoners did escape, because you're a prisoner of war, that's your orders, you've got to try and escape. So they wanted to be treated all that time with these prisoner of war type stuff when it suited them. And now, when you have things where you want to be treated as a normal prisoner, you suddenly not want to be what you wanted through the 70s and 80s, and that was this prisoner of war status. So I find that most bizarre. And but you know that's kind of what happens, isn't it? With these people, that, you know, they're always wanting to play both coin toss. We'll have both sides of the coin, right? So when the legislation suits us, we'll claim we're prisoners of war, or as they ended up, I think, political prisoners. But when the legislation suits us to be criminals, normal prisoners, we'll be that, right? So what are they? Make your mind up. And in sort of 40, 50 years, we've never really been able to make our mind up. So there we go. That's where we're at. Hopefully this sorts itself out with the interjection here from some very sensible talking peers, and hopefully this stuff doesn't get through Westminster and Mr. Adams and his 300 or 400 other alleged IRA prisoners don't get to take money from our coffers when their victims never received any compensation. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you've not already done so, please hit the subscribe and the notification bell. Let me know your comments below, please. But most importantly, unless you're the type of person that's done some naughty things in the past, been caught, and now try to use human rights legislation for your own benefit. Not you, but
everyone else. Have a great day. Gerry, bye now.